Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about a sad piece of news. Not a RIP thing, not something that, is all doom and gloom and, oh, Super Sentai is over. Because I do want to talk about this in depth. I do think that there is some nuance here. I don't want to be, a shock jock here and just kind of come out and just be like, well, it's the end of everything. Buy everything, it's the end. Don't do that. And don't feel that way. And I would suggest not jumping onto that bandwagon just yet, and I'll explain why in a minute. But of course, for some of you that may not have the chance to look at the title of the video, you're listening to the audio version of this, let me talk to you about the actual headline here and what's going on. So apparently Bandai Namco have released their earnings and predictions forecast for Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Ultraman. And apparently looking at the first quarter sales of Lupin Ranger versus Patron Ranger, or Patronger. It is hard for me to say Patronger. First off, I haven't actually seen the show. And it's just hard to go from Ranger to Jur that quickly. But I will try, and I will try to make very little mistakes in this, while talking about this story. Anyway, they posted the lowest first figures in recorded history for the Super Sentai franchise. But however, here's the thing. So, first of all, yes, these are the lowest first figures in franchise history. Shadow of a doubt, that's the numbers, right? But the forecast thing, like, oh, it's going to be forecasted to be even worse later on down the line, etc., etc. The forecast is where I have issues, because a lot of analysts can make predictions that can simply become untrue due to different, changes in the market that they may see coming. They may, try to take that into account. But there are just certain changes that can happen in any market that can, I know it might seem silly to some people, especially those that know numbers much better than I do. But we do know that disruptors can occur. So I feel like with forecasts, I feel like us as fans, sometimes we take those a bit too seriously, and we don't realize that those are just projections, those are just potentials. We watch so much Toku, darn it, and so much anime that talks about the future not being decided, and then the second we see, and I know it's a TV show, okay, but they're lessons, darn it. They're lessons that we're not listening to. But in all seriousness, let's talk about some other facts here. The facts are that Super Sentai is reported to have made, by the way, 1.4 billion yen in the first quarter. So let's also note that we are in the billions. I know US conversion is less than that, but we are talking about billions here. I know a lot of money gets put into promotional material and into making the show and into making the toys, but we do have to acknowledge, and also this is Bandai Namco talking here, not Toei necessarily, but we do have to mention that, this isn't chump change here, right, that they're making. Anyway, so 1.4 billion yen in the first quarter, with forecasts of 3 billion yen in the first half, and a full year forecast of 10.5 billion yen. So while it is the lowest in the franchise history, don't get me wrong, and I do think that Bandai Namco might need to make certain changes going, towards the future, potentially diversifying their revenue streams a bit more when it comes to Super Sentai. At the same time, I do think we have to acknowledge that it's not like they're making, pocket yen here. They're really not, okay? They're making, potentially, and it's still, this is forecast, but forecasting 10.5 billion yen. We gotta take that into account. Anyway, when we look at Ultraman, so let's look at some other series as well. Ultraman's reported as having made 0.7 billion yen in the first quarter, with a forecast of 2.5 billion yen for the first half of the financial year. Making it just the second time Ultraman will have outperformed a Super Sentai series. But again, we're talking about a forecast at this point, not necessarily the full amount of money as of yet. Because looking at the actual numbers here, Super Sentai is reported to have made 1.4 billion in the first quarter. And Ultraman 0.7 billion. That's more billion. The Super Sentai one is more billion. Nothing against Ultraman. Love Ultraman, but that's more billion. That's just numbers. The current show Ultraman R&B. However, okay, so we should admit this. The current show Ultraman R&B did not start until June, meaning its first quarter is predicted as have sold 1.8 billion yen. So it is at that point that, yes, they have sold more. But again, when I hear the words prediction, forecasts, I'm always weary until we actually see the full numbers right in front of us. Now, Kamen Rider improved over last year for some reason. I really don't know why. I haven't seen either show. With 4 billion yen. There's 4.0 here, even though it doesn't need to be. 4 billion yen. That's why it threw me off. 4.0 billion yen. in its first quarter, and a prediction of 10 billion yen for the first half of the year, although it's still expected to underperform compared to last year with 22.5 billion yen, predicated against last year's 24.8 billion yen. So talking about these right here, we got the numbers in. I don't think that's low. However, yes, I don't have the numbers from previous years. Maybe it was so high that this seems abysmal to Bandai Namco. But there are a few things we have to think of, and the reason why I'm not going for doom and gloom end of Super Sentai as we know it just yet are for a few reasons. So first off, we're going with Bandai Namco's numbers here. We're not going with Toei's. And the reason why that matters is because Toei is still making money. Now, I don't have the numbers in front of me, so to be fair, maybe they're not. But when I say making money, I'm referring to the fact that the show itself, even though it is a vehicle for these toys or these figures, yes, no doubt about it, but at the same time, Toei is still making money, not from Saban, but from Hasbro, from Shout Factory, technically not Crunchyroll or other streaming services as of yet, other than Shout Factory and their streaming service. But again, that can change in the future. Toei can open that up as well as time goes on. So when we look at Toei's numbers and what Toei could be making, especially from Bandai Namco making these toys with them and that licensing, Toei could still be making money also through ratings as well, because I believe there's a good chance that because here's the thing, so Japanese versus US TV, a little bit different when it comes to late night stuff. So like let's say a Japan's version of Adult Swim versus our version of Adult Swim. Our version of Adult Swim would, and of course Toonami technically, would, depending on what day of the week you're watching, would pay anime companies like anime licensing companies like Funimation for the rights to air the shows on their network. When it comes to the Japanese side of things, they actually pay the actual companies that are actually wanting to put this stuff on the air actually pay the Japanese channels to put it on late night. So it's actually a reverse, funnily enough. So it's actually flipped. So, but when it comes to daytime stuff, I'm pretty sure it is flipped, though, when it comes to daytime stuff. Like, I don't think we have Toei actually paying channels to air Dragon Ball Super in the middle of the day or early in the day. That's a proven ratings draw. I'm pretty sure they're paying Toei to be able to do that, to bring people into the network so that they can promote stuff, after. I don't believe there's, actually, during ad breaks and things like that. So, when it comes to this show right here, or really, Sentai and Kamen Rider in general, those do air in the morning. We all know that. Superhero time, right? That's in the morning. So, when it comes to this show, Toei is still making money. Now, if Bandai Namco does want to remove themselves from the game, that would be frustrating, but in my opinion, I would imagine there would be other toy companies or other figure companies in Japan that would definitely like to jump on that bandwagon, because even at a historic low in Bandai Namco's eyes, I know I'm switching between Namco and Namco, I know, but still, when it comes to, their historic low, for another company that could also be producing quality figures as well, but doesn't have that Super Sentai bump or that Kamen Rider bump, for them, Bandai Namco dropping it could be something that could cause another company to soar. So I don't think Bandai Namco is going to be dropping this, Super Sentai anytime soon. And I don't think that's going to cause Toei to go, well, I guess we can't make Sentai because we can't sell toys. I don't think that's going to happen. But I will say this much, though. I do think that Bandai Namco needs to change up the strategy a little bit. We have seen, both in Japan and in the US, toy sales have gone down. And while that hasn't led to the death of Toys R Us, the death of Toys R Us was a bunch of other things. I actually did a Matt Rants on that over at Those Guys Play YouTube channel. You should check that out. When it comes to other, toy sales, though, toy sales have gone down, right? Where figure sales, I would argue they're doing well, but that's also not just kids buying that, if any kids. It's really people my age and older loving the fact that, this figure looks amazing, and, that figure looks amazing, or that toy or that figure, isn't something that, kids would want, right? Like, do kids really want a, the flute from, Green Ranger's flute? Does the dragon flute? Do kids want that? No. Right? I mean, maybe, actually, to be fair. But still, I don't really think that a lot of young kids are watching the original Mighty Morphin or Zeo Ranger versus us going back, or adult Japanese fans going back. So, when it comes to certain figures and toys, I do believe that amongst the younger demographic, the demographic that they're trying to tailor themselves to with these shows and things like that, I think that's kind of, the sales are going down, and that's why the sales numbers are decreasing. But I do think that Bandai Namco should be putting more money into video games for Super Sentai. Now, I do know that they have the Dice-O stuff, but I do think that putting more money into Super Sentai games for the PS4, Nintendo Switch, things like that, could, and maybe they have already, could actually bring more money their way. I know that some video games have been released for like Super Mega Force in the US. I don't know if they had a Japanese equivalent. I know Kyoryuger got a 3DS game as well. I know that we have that new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers digital game on the PS4. But still, having Bandai Namco involved, if they can be, having them create some of these games, and of course, we just talked about it, a few stories ago, just on this episode of the podcast itself. Having these games potentially being exported to Southeast Asia, we could have a Sentai game in English. Doesn't even matter if it's a Sentai game that's a crossover or not, just a Sentai game in English. All of a sudden, you got people like me, you got a lot of US fans wanting to buy that game, increasing the sales, increasing these companies in Southeast Asia saying, or these Southeast Asian divisions of Bandai Namco, saying, hey, we want to release more of these. So I do think that potentially shifting over to the video game market might be better in the long term. I do think people are shifting over to that market regardless where they get their entertainment. And I'm not saying that toys or figures should go the way of the dodo. I just do think that this idea that's been going on for a while, this idea of, let's make more add-ons, more figures, more mechs, make the mech stack from, down here where my hand is, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, down here where my hand is, which is just on the table, up past the camera, length, right, off camera. After a while, you're not going to, in some cases you may, but I don't think every show, you're going to get people going, oh, I want to buy all of those. What you're actually going to get, funnily enough, is less people buying them, so you end up evening out. Even though your original thought was, oh, if we release more people will buy them, no, you're actually evening out. Whereas if you just released a few figures, you could get more people to buy them in the long run. I mean, again, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not the guy working there, but I do wonder if potentially having, even though I haven't seen this show yet, having two Ranger teams, two Sentai teams. Some of you guys are going to kill me in the comments for saying Ranger. Two Sentai teams, having Lupin Ranger and Patranger, and I assume they both have their own mechs, and they both have their own add-ons. I do wonder if, again, this could just be an outlier too. This could also just be an outlier in Japan. Where it's just, or an outlier, where in this case, there's just so much that even the kids and the parents, everyone has just kind of stepped back and gone, look, we want to buy. We do want to buy this stuff, but we can't buy all the stuff. But again, I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'm actually very curious to know how many mechs are available for sale right now through, or rather for this Sentai. And again, maybe it's just one of those that people are liking, but it's too much to shell out for. That has happened before, and to be fair, it's not like it's a brand new occurrence to have a lot of add-ons. I mean, look at Gawa Ranger. That came out, 17 years ago, but still, very long time ago. And I hate to say it's a very long time ago, but it is. We're growing old, everybody. And, that had a lot of different add-ons as well. So we've had add-ons for a while now. But also maybe some people have found that they don't really fit in with the story as well. And that also can deter them from buying some of these add-ons. But again, tell me what you think in the comments section down below.